Hey YouTubers, welcome to Lonnie Land. Hi all my subscribers who have been with me from the beginning and all of my newer subscribers. I have almost 500 subscribers now. Woohoo! I think one of the reasons it's kept my channel back, I just learned this, that if you don't allow embedding or that kind of stuff, if you put like super restrictions and don't make it suitable for kids, then they don't share it. So maybe that's what's happening. So I'm going to attempt to keep this kid friendly and not talk about words that we're not allowed to say on YouTube. You know, the semi-democratic, that's what leads into the Price-Anderson Act, isn't it? And I want to talk about this, our Constitution. I would suggest anybody who doesn't have a copy of our Constitution, you can get one from the ACLU. And this is, here, I'll show it to you. See, it's in New York City. You can get it. They're still there. And they send these out for free, www.aclu.org. You can get one. And I want to read the preamble of our Constitution, because that is what sets the whole thing in order, why we do it. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. So this is where we're at right now. The whole MAGA movement has been really a coup established by billionaires, to be honest. It's not Donald Trump thinking these ideas up. He just took them and ran with them. He's their front man. But this is the same. You guys have been hearing me excuse me, I'm not going to say that word. I'm going to try to keep my language clean. You've been hearing me, complain about how Pinochet got installed in Chile, right? So it's the same thing. It's the same set of oligarchs. And I think this is where people get this idea that there's like a major conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. I think it's just that people in power stay in power. They've been in those families have been in power for 100 years. And are they conspiring to destroy our Constitution? I think this time they actually really did. Now, this says to establish justice. I guess that means there was no justice established. It's what happens when you enslave human beings, right? But we really need to work on our democracy, folks. It's up to us. We are the democracy. We're the United States of America. Not them, not the government. We don't have a king. We don't have a queen. We don't have like a dictator. We have people that we elect into office, and it matters. What we are seeing is that it really genuinely 100% matters who we put into office. I mean, never in our wildest dreams did we ever dream we'd have a president who refused to leave and who 2.5, almost 3 years later, continues to spew lies, obfuscate, lie, obstruct justice, hide top secret documents, sell top secret documents, set up a pay-to-play spy shop down at his mansion, which happens to be a resort. It's not even his own personal residence. He's living there illegally. Like, if we wrote this stuff in a book, nobody would believe us. It's too incredulous, right? And it has cost me, unfortunately, check this out, like no gray hairs yet, man. 67 years old, no gray hairs. I can't believe it. Although I do notice I'm getting kind of thin right here, so woohoo for old age. We call that what? The twilight years. I read the Price-Anderson Act, you guys, because Kevin Finnegan put out like a little freak out video on YouTube about tell your senators not to reinstate the Price-Anderson Act. Well, check this out. The Price-Anderson Act of 2023 basically states We're being held hostage by the nuclear industry to indemnify them, to hold nobody accountable, and to expand on the indemnification of nuclear. They basically are saying, if this is what the report of 2023 actually said in it. The reason for indemnification is it has been impressed upon Congress that if people who are in the nuclear industry are not indemnified, i.e., held unaccountable for any mistakes or any wrongdoing that they do at a nuclear facility that harms the public or the government or anybody, they're going to be held 100% accountable, or else they refuse to work in the nuclear industry. How about that? It's a highly skilled job. You could go in there and rip off the government, which they are doing. Excuse me. Now we do know why we have these cost overruns, right? Like that, the quote, new modified small modular nuclear reactor that's going up in, I think it's Idaho. I think the original ticket was something like 32 billion or million, something like that. It's more than doubled. I heard it was 84 billion or million, like for real, 84 million. It went from 36 to 84. And why? Because they can charge whatever they want. It doesn't matter. They can make whatever mistakes they want. Now we know why it's hard for the victims of the nuclear industry to get paid, because if nobody's held accountable, then why are people who are injured in the nuclear industry expected to be compensated for their loss? It's just an acceptance of harm by an entire industry. For what? Not for energy. It's for war. Let's just be clear. So, and again, it goes back to when we really 100% had this thing up for grabs right after World War II. In fact, during World War II. I mean, our country has never really, our democracy hasn't really been secure, to be honest. It's never been a secure nation. And that's because we have two sides in our government, and we always have. We have had a white supremacist kind of institution that wants to have a religious doctrine running like a theocracy, running America. And then we have people like Ben Franklin, who was an atheist who helped write this Constitution, who believed that everybody should have equal rights. And many of the people that voted for slavery didn't really want it, but it was that or nothing. Again, being held hostage by the same gang of thugs, you know? So it's frustrating. I see why Kevin Finnegan is freaking out and why he makes these big freak out things, and he can't stop thinking about it, you know? I sympathize with that, actually, but I think that it's antithetical to life to constantly freak out. And I don't think it helps create solutions. I don't think yelling and screaming and demanding and calling names to politicians and saying it's all their fault, because guess what? These politicians that get elected and walk into the White House, if they're good people, they're shocked at what they're informed of. And they're also shocked when they get the little knock at the door, when they get their little full, complete briefing that says, if you say anything about it, you or your kids or one of your kids or somebody of your family is just going to have an accident. Because this is not getting out. We're going to keep a tight lid on it. That's why Hillary Clinton couldn't say anything. They cannot talk. They're just as captured as the rest of everybody. There are very few people who control that narrative. And it's certainly not the public faces of our politicians. So this is how deep it is. And it is off-putting. It is freaking us out. But you know what happens? When it goes like this, we're not like this. We don't have a pyramid where the base of the people have the bulk of the money and they're feeding it up to the top, and the people that have most of the money can sustain what's going on the bottom. What we have now is the other way around. How do I make that look the other way around? Here, I'll use this. So now we have a pyramid that goes like this, upside down, right? And this is us. These guys have all the money, and it's going to crush down. The whole system is just going to crush down on itself. It is going to happen. It is happening. Our economy is doing well, but that's only because of quote, Bidenomics. It's not really Bidenomics. It's just solid democratic plans to build our nation, to invest in our country. Miracle, right? Invest in the nation and it actually starts to grow and get healthier. Our bridges, we're investing in our bridges. We're investing in our dams finally. We have an infrastructure that is flailing. And if you study, politics, you understand that the whole neoliberal agenda is creating poverty at the bottom and wealth for the very few and privatizing everything, cutting out all social programs so that people at the bottom have nothing and they're living on subsistence living. It is inherently like capitalistic slavery when you do that. And that was their idea. Only it doesn't work and people don't accept it. But this idea about the Price-Anderson Act just blew me away. You guys have to read it. Honestly, it literally says that we have been well informed by the nuclear industry if we do not provide them with indemnification. And in fact, they have encouraged us to expand it, that they will refuse to work in the nuclear industry. So that means the people who've gotten the scientific knowledge, who understand how grave it is, basically are holding us all up for hostage so that we have to rely on their good sense of ethics. It is stunning. Read it. It is... we have been backed into a nuclear corner here. This is why the SMRs are being put out. This is why they're not cutting the funding. Because if they start cutting the funding in the nuclear industry and they start cutting things back, the people in the nuclear industry are going to say, hey, we're going to go be engineers in another field. We don't need to work in the nuclear industry. And then we're going to have a lack of staff at our currently flailing, 100 or so nuclear power facilities. We are super screwed when it comes to what... You think Fukushima's bad, Finnegan? Wait till Diablo Canyon decides to have a problem. It is really... We're on thin ice, man. But, you know what? You know how I get by? Get by with a little help from my friends. I got these, my angel cards. So let's ask my angels. So what's the question? The question for us is, will humanity survive? The nuclear, will we thrive? I don't want us just to survive. I don't want us to be like Mad Max. Will our civilization be able to transform without billions of people suffering and, us going into the dark ages? And will we be able to get out of this nuclear nightmare? So let me pull a card. I keep pulling cards when I do angel cards until I feel like I got the answer. You get the answer that you want. Oh, so what is this first card? It says creativity. So I guess that means that we have to be creative in order to get ourselves out of this whole gigantic... And in fact, that's always what I said on my radio show even. What we really, really need is to pour money into science, give our kids free education, and turn out a bunch of scientific brains. Here, birth. Yes, we have to give birth to a whole new industry. I call it the remediation industry because it's not just nuclear. It's chemical, fuel, toxic, everything, plastics. Look at our disgusting things that... when plastic came upon us, it seemed like such a cool idea. And now we're in this mountain of trash. this is the thing. They need to give birth to a remediation industry. It is desperately and badly needed if we're going to get out of this. Because we need answers. And we also need this. We need the truth. We need them to stop pretending like it's not so bad. Because that's what's happening, is they act like it's just not that bad. It is that bad. It's really bad. But what does Dr. Phil say? You can't change what you don't acknowledge. And this is what's going on with all of it. I mean, and it's not just the nuclear industry. It's kind of like the Price Anderson Act. Like, I'm blown away that that's what it says. If you don't make us completely not guilty on anything we ever do, intentionally, unintentionally, we're never going to work here again. Oh, here we go. Openness. That's what we need to have, is openness. We need to have truth and openness. We need creativity. We need to give birth to a new industry. You know, but it is hard to live through it, isn't it? How are we going to live through all of that? Hi, this is so much needed. We need to forgive them. We really need to work on forgiving the people who haven't had the courage to speak truth and to be open. Because they are under immense pressure to keep quiet. Because they're so afraid of what will happen if they tell us the truth. The fact is, we're seeing the truth. It's not just nuclear, it's chemical. People are getting sick, super sick. So we have to work on forgiveness. And I think we have to work on forgiveness from everybody. It's not just the nuclear industry, chemical, oil, toxic industries. We need to just walk in love and have an open heart. Exactly. So we need to have the light going on in our lives. And we can only do that when we forgive people. And we start speaking truth. So I'm going to keep pulling another card. And this is also what we need. We need compassion. We need to have compassion for each other. And how many cards is that? I think that's my number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. I usually like to stop at 7 cards. Because 7's my number. I'm number 7 kid, and 7 just is everywhere in my life. So I do 7s. So that is how I get through, how I get by with my little friends, my little angel cards. And then if I really don't get an answer, I'll ask. I have other angel cards. I have a deck of tarot cards. You know, to me, that's kind of like praying. I know some people think it's stupid or evil, but I don't think it's either one of them. It does give me insight, and I think it works with your own energy and what you got going on. And especially like these little angel cards, like, wow, you can see mine are super beat up. I put tape on them again. But where do they come from? Angel cards, these are from Drake and Tyler. I don't know where I got them. I got them like 1,000,000 years ago. Actually, to be honest, I think I might have found them in a thrift store. But I love them because they always give me the right message. And I encourage Kevin Finnegan or anybody out there who's listened this far, thank you, to pick up some angel cards. You know, start talking to your spirit guides, because I know people don't believe in that anymore, but I think it's super important. I do believe that we have a connection to the universe, whatever that is. You can define it however you want. And I think it's super important for us to connect, because we are under extreme pressure right now. And we're going to have to force them to create a new industry, a remediation industry. That is a given. They can't keep just consuming. So, and I think it's going to be, to be honest, I think it's going to be the next wave of technology is remediation industry. So, anyways, I encourage you guys to put your courage feet on. This is me with my courage feet on, because I am going to make this video able to be embedded and do all that stuff that I heard that helps your channel grow, because I do want to get my message out, because I think a lot of people, they're just so angry, and There's so much, it's not just misinformation, it's misunderstood information, right? People hear things and they just think of things in the worst way. And I think it's super important for us to buoy each other up so that we don't. Well, it's kind of like crabs in a bucket. I'll tell you the crabs in a bucket story. You know that one, right? And then I'll end. When you're out, fishing out on the bayou and you're pulling crabs into the bucket, the big crabs, the big strong ones, the ones that we want to get, they're strong enough to pull themselves out of the bucket all by themselves. But what happens is the little crabs in the bucket, when they see the big one going down, they yank them back into the bucket. So that's what I mean by crabs in a bucket, right? You can't let the weaklings keep your thoughts down. Otherwise, you're going to get caught up in things that you don't belong in or you don't want to be in. Super important to escape the bucket. Just keep going. Shake it off and keep going, because if you have a need to leave, then you probably need to leave. Or if you need to think a different way, then you probably need to think a different way. We're coming into a interesting time. It's a challenging time, although life has always been challenging. But just keep that in mind, right? Crabs in a bucket. I'm big on phrases, as you guys can tell. So, put your courage feet on, you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Ciao. Thank you for liking and thumbs up and subscribing and sharing my channel with anybody who you think might want to hear this message. And I am going to be doing probably more readings from the angel cards. And that's a big one for me, outing myself on that one. But there you go. Let me see. Ciao, you guys. Bye.